We're just with you guys on Zoom, and later on we are recording this. So
Mhm.
if you want to rewatch it, we're going to post a link. It's going to be available on housecallpro.com/coronavirus, and then we'll also see if we can get that video in the Facebook group too. So you guys can rewatch, or you can have like a watch party and share it to other groups as well.
So let's get started. Welcome back, you guys, for another awesome evening of the coronavirus update for home service businesses. Every night at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, myself, Roland, and Mel will be coming to you live with the most important news and happenings around the coronavirus pandemic and how it affects the home service space. We're going to be covering one topic each day in depth, answering all of your, well, hopefully as many questions as we can, and also have some pro guests and experts on. So before we get started, one more time, the Q&A box, just hover your mouse if you're watching on the computer over our faces over here. The Q&A and the chat will pop up. Brooks just said, I found it, yeehaw. I just got a message from him. Let's talk about yesterday's topic. If you weren't able to watch it, we talked about, oh my gosh, what did we talk about yesterday? We talked about so many things. We talked about SBA loans. SBA loans, all about that. That was a really, really big topic. So that is recorded in the Facebook group. So after this, go watch it if you weren't able to. Mel walked through the 3 steps of how to apply for one and how to know if you qualify for it. The 3 themes you're going to be seeing in all these evening updates is 1, we want you to be a trusted source of information. We're going to equip you with that information and show you where to find resources. We're going to be emailing them to you and posting them in the Facebook group in the forms of PDFs. Number 2 is what you should be doing during this time for your employees and your customers. And number 3, equally as important, is how do you start booking jobs and communicating with your customers to get your pipeline going? So we try to touch on each of those 3 themes throughout our whole broadcast. And of course, as always, we encourage comments, engagements, and we hope that you share this in other groups. The more pros that know about this, the better. We are all in this together, and knowledge is power. So invite your friends in the home service spaces. Okay. Roland, want to talk about our subject for the day?
Yeah, so obviously we're looking at you guys for things that you'd like to discuss, and one of the things that kept coming up over and over again was, what is an essential service? So obviously, as things become shelter in place, aka lockdown, what are things that are considered essential? And it's going to vary based upon state and state, county and county, but we're going to dive into that a little bit more here with Mel, who's going to shine some light on that. But before we do, we're going to do the update and get you guys some of the stats and kind of some of the high level things that are going on. And as a teaser, then we'll be going into the essentials. And then once we kind of cover the essentials, we'll talk about now that you can go into a homeowner's home, how do you approach them? How do you deal with it? How do you put them at ease? So we're going to really unpack all of that together tonight. But first, we're going to start off with the updates and have Mel introduce herself again real quick. For those of you that are new, we see 200 of you guys now. So probably half of you guys haven't seen one before yet. So it's really exciting. So Mel will give her a quick intro and then dive right into the updates.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Melina Fairley, Senior Vice President of People at Housecall Pro. You've noticed most people call me Mel, so please feel free. And I've been providing daily coronavirus updates to my employees for several weeks. And based on their response and based on the questions that we're getting from all of our customers at Housecall, we've decided to make these updates available to everyone in the home services industry and really to all small businesses. So we invite you to invite other business owners to join this group, even if they're not specific to home services, although that's certainly going to be our focus. So I'm not an infectious disease expert or a lawyer. I'm a mom and I'm a human resources professional with 20 years. Well, I'm now a work from home mom, it turns out. And although I work in the technology space now, I spent most of my career in retail grocery. So frontline employees, lots of customer contact and connection. So I know a thing or two about what it's like to serve the public. So tonight I'd like to give you a brief world update on the coronavirus, which we'll continue to do here in this format for as long as it's helpful. And my hope is that providing these nightly updates allow you to just rest assured that you're going to know what's going on in the world at the end of each of your busy days. So as business owners, you are so uniquely positioned as really a trusted resource in your community. So your employees are looking to you, your customers might even be looking to you, your neighbors are looking to you to find out what's going on. So we'd like to help provide that, that reliable and trusted information during these fast-moving times. So I'll jump into an update on the state of the world. So as of yesterday, the World Health Organization reported over 191,000 cases of coronavirus and over 7,800 deaths. And for the first time since the onset, China reported no new domestic cases today. They did have 34 new reported cases, but they were all from other countries. So that's a unique development. Here in the US, Johns Hopkins is reporting a total of 9,415 cases and 150 deaths as of 7:30 this morning. Remarkable or notable is that this represents a 66% increase in cases and a 29% increase in death from just yesterday. So there's been a large response to the pandemic here in the US. At a press conference yesterday, President Trump announced that he's doing a number of things, including invoking the Defense Production Act. So that's going to allow the government to come in and compel or ask private companies, or require them to make things such as masks, respirators, gloves, ventilators, things that our medical services need, and also things that I know some of you in home services also rely on. So the White House also announced that they're deploying a few hospital ships, one to New York, one to California, from the Navy. So that will certainly increase our ability to respond to any illnesses. And there's also an interesting new study that came out today. It was issued yesterday. I read about it today, that the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention found. They followed the first 2,500 cases, and they found that American adults of all ages, not just those in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, are being seriously sickened by the coronavirus. So it's not the case that this is a sickness that we shouldn't all be concerned about. So the report found that of the 508 patients that were hospitalized, 38% were between 20 and 54 years old. So it's not just the elderly or senior citizens that are needing, increased care and hospitalization. So that was really sort of a new take on the data there.
Yeah, and the majority of the mortality is still on the older, but that doesn't mean that you're invincible, and doesn't mean that you won't go to the hospital. It doesn't mean you won't be potentially going to ICU. So just make sure that you know that, and don't think that just because you're younger, it's going to be a mild case of a flu or just like a cold.
Yes, so certainly the oldest patients had the greatest likelihood of dying and of being hospitalized. But I think we'd been hearing that, it's, the old people get really sick and the rest of us, we're going to be fine. Well, if 38% of the hospitalizations were ages 20 to 54, I mean, that's something we should all be certainly aware of, to not discount the potential there. So I think what we're seeing, and what this topic is really about tonight, is we're seeing social distancing increase. So, maintaining that 6 feet of space around you, working from home if you're in the type of industry that can, which, some of us are fortunate enough to be. And for those of you who can't work from home, which is all of you in home services, right? All of our customers, really figuring out how to effectively socially distance in your environment. So we're seeing that we talked about unemployment 2 nights ago on this live cast, and we're seeing that applications for unemployment across the country are climbing. Websites are crashing. For example, in Ohio, 78,000 people filed unemployment in one 3-day period, compared to only 6,500 for the entire previous week. So New York, New Jersey, Oregon, all of those sites crashed. Their unemployment departments are really having a hard time keeping up. So for those of you who are impacted and are frustrated by not being able to get in touch with someone on the phone, or be able to hit, enter on that website form, and patience is really what's being asked of all of us. These are things out of our control, and there's certainly a lot of folks all getting driven to the same resources at this time. So hopefully, again, this update can be a good source of information across the globe to give you a good and succinct update every night.
Awesome. So let's dive into our topic. Today's topic is essential services. This keyword is popping up everywhere, all over our official Facebook group. So like we talked about before, we want to dive into what does this actually mean? How do you know if the services you're providing or the industry that you're in qualifies as an essential service? So to start us off, Mel's going to go over the definition and how to figure out what qualifies in your county, city, state.
Great. So the first thing that you should start to get familiar with is if you're under some sort of shelter in place order or essential services only order, where did that order come from? Was it your city, your county? Was it your state? You need to identify where that initial direction came from, because that's going to be where you're going to go back for the information as to what qualifies as essential. So I have been researching many of the current situations of shelter in place orders or lockdown, and the lists do vary by state and county. And so you're really going to need to go to the specific one that pertains to your business or the communities that your businesses serve. So, but in general, there were some things. In general, what I'm seeing is that typically plumbers and electricians are called out as being essential. And in general, those who provide services necessary to maintain safety, sanitation, and essential operations of residences are also being called out as essential businesses. So the Bay Area, Northern California listed plumbers, electricians, exterminators, and other service providers who provide services that are necessary to maintaining the safety, sanitation, and essential operation of residences. So that's how they chose to define it. It's not going to list, each and every individual business. So there's going to be still some questions that folks are going to have, and we're all going to have to do our best. Pennsylvania listed construction and home repair to both be essential. Nevada listed home maintenance and home repair services as essential. So that's sort of a flavor of what we're starting to see.
Yep. And typically I would just say, just to add on to it, is you'll start seeing these lists, and oftentimes you'll see construction broken up into two phases, one which is like new construction and one which is like repair and maintenance. So for example, in the automotive industry, automotive dealers are not essential. So you cannot go buy a car. But if you need to service your car, you need parts or maintenance of those things, those are essential. So when you start thinking about home services, especially if you don't know exactly where you fall, typically if you're doing repair and maintenance of something around the house, oftentimes it'll be referred to as like dwelling, then you will qualify, especially if it also is sanitation. So think any type of cleaning, remediation, all these types of services will typically fall under that essential side. And you'll see oftentimes too that construction will be broken indifferently from like the professional services. So you might see yourself in different categories. And because like Mel just said, it's not going to necessarily always have plumber listed as a trade, right? Or HVAC listed as a trade, but it might be broken down into different things. So look at your local level. Oftentimes now they're starting to release them as PDFs that you can download, you can start to look through, but really make sure that, if you're trying to be safe, as long as you do repair and maintenance and those things for sure are essential. New installs, like new construction, now is not a good time to go build a new house, for example, or start a brand new remodel unless there's something truly essential about it. But just think about how you defend it if you happen to be pulled over, a question about it.
And I think what we're seeing, Roland, is that initially they'll come out with an announcement. There's usually a press conference. There's not a lot of time for questions, but there are questions. It's often focused around the things that are, certainly non-essential. So there's lots of talk around bars and restaurants and gyms and, those sorts of things. And then those of us in home services are left wondering, well, wait, what about us? Are we essential or not? Typically what I'm seeing is these government websites are updating within 24 hours of the initial announcement. You can imagine how hard all of these folks are working to get these notices out and to get things updated. And they're experiencing the same delays and things that we all are these days online and getting things posted and up. So you tend to see some clarification come out, and then some of them will even say, we'll continue to clarify and update this list as needed. So I think we're all learning alongside each other right now.
Yep. And then typically also, you know, you'll see things where any place where people will start to congregate, those things are scrutinized more heavily, unless they are something like, for example, like grocery store or pharmacy. What's funny enough is that liquor stores are still an essential place to go. So many states have their liquor stores open. So fear not, my fellow beer drinkers, that is still an essential service. But just like anything else, just go in and make sure and check.
Cool. So, like Mel said, it really just varies. You have to look at all three, your county, city, and state. What we want to talk about now is once you do figure out if your services are classified as an essential service in your area, we want to talk about the best way to go about booking these and performing these services. So right now we're going to go through the do's and don'ts of booking these essential services, and we actually have a resource ready for you that runs you through all the questions, and we're going to break it down for you right now. So I hope you guys are ready. Let's talk about, before you even start asking the questions, customer service. When you answer the phone, answer calmly, politely. Everyone is kind of frantic and freaked out right now. And the reason your customer is calling you or booking you online, something is probably going wrong in their home on top of all the other things going on in the world. And it probably feels like everything is crashing down around them. So you being that source of calm for them, letting them know that you're going to fix their problem and that you're looking out for both their safety, and your company's safe or your employees' safety. That's what this script that we're sharing with you right now is going to help you do. So just remember that when you're asking these questions, not to come off too harsh or like you're interrogating them. And Mel's going to talk about the best way to ask them and things you absolutely should not be asking people. So let's get started on those questions.
So where's the script you're talking about? Where are we going to put this for everybody?
So this script I'm going to actually put right now into the chat box. So if you want to follow along, you can. And we're also going to be posting it in resources. It's living on the Housecall Pro blog, and it will be sent out in the PDF that we send out after our live. So it's right, oops, I sent it to all panelists. There you go, guys.
Yep, and you guys also will be able to download it too. Obviously, you know, modify it with your own company's branding or things that you stand for, some of your values, but try to maintain those similar kind of questions because we built it that way on purpose. But you can download it, obviously print it out, you can laminate it, give it to your technicians, give it to your CSRs or anybody that's answering the phone. There's definitely something that is new. And like anything else you're trying to roll out to other people inside your organization, repetition matters. Repetition and helping them adhere to this and make sure all the questions are answered. So go ahead and look in the chat for that, as well as that'll be linked on housecallpro.com/coronavirus2. If you can't find it, let us know.
So before we go into the questions, Mel, can you run us through some ground rules when asking our customers these questions?
Sure. I mean, you really just need to ask the questions to determine if the house is safe to go into. So you're really just looking for things related to coronavirus. You're not looking for anything else, right? So you're just looking for, is anyone, you know, has anyone been exposed to coronavirus? Has anyone had a fever, sore throat, respiratory issues? You know, you're not asking if anyone has diabetes, right? You're just looking for things that would make that home unsafe potentially for your employees to go into. So you're looking to create a safe environment. So you also, of course, are going to want to know if they have any special requests or if there's anything that they're concerned about. But you don't need to ask someone how old they are, right? Because as we were just talking about earlier, you know, 20-year-olds can carry the virus. 20-year-olds can be hospitalized for the virus. So asking someone their age isn't really the important part. The important part is, hey, has anyone been, you know, sick with flu-like symptoms? Has anyone had a fever? Has anyone traveled to one of these high-risk areas that the Centers for Disease Control would require someone to actually self-quarantine for 14 days after they came home? So you want to ask those consistent questions that are related to the safety of your employees, your techs going into that home. Those are the essential ground rules. Things that aren't going to tell you if that home is a safe place for your employees aren't questions that are going to be relevant.
Thank you for covering the ground rules. So I'm just going to quickly go over the 5 example questions that we have here. Feel free to use them. So one, confirming the number of people in their household. This comes into play when you are figuring out where the different rooms are and if they can be in separate rooms from you while you're performing the service or performing.
Alexa, I think you're not on the most current link, the link that you posted in chat, if you want to go to that one. So the first question that we have on our updated post is to confirm that no one in the household has been exposed to coronavirus or COVID-19.
There.
There you go.
There we go. Had our old link pulled up. Thank you for that, Mel. Okay. So like Mel said, confirm that no one in the household has been exposed to COVID-19. If anyone in the household has traveled recently to one of the Centers for Disease Control's high-risk areas. If anyone in the household has had a fever, sore throat, cough, new shortness of breath, or experienced any flu-like symptoms in the past 14 days. The next question is, will anyone be home with the technicians when the service is being performed? And if so, will they be willing to follow social distancing? And if remember, social distancing is 6 feet away. Ask the customer if they have any special requests for the technician when they arrive. For example, the customer might ask your service technician to call when they arrive so that they may stay in another room or space while the technician is doing work.
Yeah, so, and I love what one of our comments, what Matt said, is that he asks these questions, but he ensures that he asks them to all customers. So it's actually a really nice thing to say to your customers, hey, during this sort of uncertain and crazy time right now, I'm asking a series of questions of all my customers. So this will just take a minute. This will make sure that we can provide you with a safe and effective service, and then ask them so that your customers don't feel like they've been singled out in any way.
Remember, they'll also feel safer knowing that you're asking every single home that you're going into. So they feel, oh, wow, well, they're not just asking me, they're asking everybody. And because they're asking everybody, I'm also even more protected. Because remember, you're still a stranger going into their home. This is going to make them feel a lot more comfortable. So these questions are really designed to help them feel more secure.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some safety tips for your techs during the job. These are more physical material items, having gloves, masks, boots, and sanitizing products. All these things are for the good of your employee and for the customer. So make sure you have those things hopefully stocked up. I know we had a couple pros in here, or we had, who do we have? Tom, Justin, Allen, what's his name? Someone posted that they had a bunch of masks in the Housecall Pros coronavirus group. So if you are still in need of that, go comment on that post. There's like 100 comments on it right now. That I thought that was really, really generous. So just some things to remember during when you're performing the job.
Yep. And if you happen to have any extra ones and you feel like you're not going to be using them, or you ordered too many, feel free to donate those to any kind of local hospital that's nearby, because they're going to need it even more than you will.
Mm-hmm. So that is our rundown of the do's and don'ts of booking and performing an essential service call. We want to bring our guest on for the day, Tom Donner. So Tom, if you could unmute yourself and show your video.
Hey guys.
There we go. Hey Tom.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to have Tom introduce himself, but the way this is going to work, like it did last night with Aram, Tom's going to let you know where he's from, how his business has may or may not have been impacted, some questions that he has for Mel and Roland, and he's also going to share some strategies he's using right now as he is in one of the essential service only areas at this moment.
Okay, guys. My name is Tom Donner. I'm in Manchester, New Jersey, which is, as you all might relate to, close to Seaside Heights, so Jersey Shore, that whole thing. So we're about 15 miles west of that. My company is Bayshore Carpet and Upholstery Cleaning. We've been in business for 27 years. And we're kind of in a situation similar, believe it or not, to Superstorm Sandy, in that so much is being eliminated from our opportunities to do business. So in this case, way worse, because before we could always drive 30 miles west inland and get gas or get masks or gloves or things like that. So So ironically, Mel, you answered some of the questions that I had posed to you guys already, which I'm glad because they needed more detail than I was going to be asking for. So the first question I had was, what is the best resource to find out if our business is essential or non-essential? So I think you did hit on that a lot. And I've been researching that nonstop for the last 3 days. And in New Jersey, there's nothing really specific. But I do have a suggestion. If you're have any relation with your local police department, ask them, because they're going to be the guys that are going to pull you over anyway. So honestly, I live in a community with, my county is 500,000 people, but the bulk of my business is in 2 towns. So ask the police department, because they probably don't know who they should be pulling over anyway. So, and I don't mean that to be, sarcastic or anything, but so
and I've pulled up New Jersey's announcement, and it also says the order mandates all non-essential retail, recreational, and entertainment businesses must cease daily operations from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Yes, correct.
So it looks like there's still operating hours during the day, just not in the evening and overnight.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Home Depot, you have to stand in line. You only let 50 people in. All the restaurants you can walk in, but it's like one person at a time. But it's getting closer and closer to total shutdown. I went through a strip mall today, and there was 19 stores in that complex, and 11 were already closed. So, and I'm sure everybody's seen the same thing. So Mel, do you have anything else on the essential or non-essentials? Because I think you covered a lot of it. So
yeah, I think also when you go to these websites, there'll often be a link that'll say like, go here for the actual order. Mm-hmm. And when you click open, it's sometimes a scanned document that looks like it's been typed on a typewriter, because they're the actual legal legislative filing in that county or city that someone has scanned. There's usually a signature at the end. They're very long, but sometimes in those you can find a more detailed list that the media hasn't picked up on or that haven't been posted on the website.
That's a great point. And today I actually
is right on. The thing that you said, Tom, is right on too. Like, go ahead and call your local police department, because they will be the ones to enforce it. So they will invariably have to know the rules.
Right.
And that way, if you do happen to get pulled over, you know exactly what to say or not to say, or should you be there or should you not be there.
Right. One other thing about more information today, I watched a portion of our governor's press conference, which he's been doing, I think, every day. It's very lengthy. It was an hour and 48 minutes. I didn't watch not even 10% of it. But there are, there's a lot of information in there. They were actually talking about how to take gloves off and put them on. And it was kind of crazy, all the stuff they were saying. But, they have every legal or health department coordinator available to them. So. Okay, so next question I had was, what are some of the ideas to be ready to relaunch when this is all over? Meaning marketing, whether it's joint venture or things like that. How do we position ourselves to be ready to kind of explode?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, one thing that I see is working well is gift cards. And so essentially what you're doing during these times right now is outbounding. So this means calling your existing customer list. You can do this if you're using Housecall Pro, just pull up your customers list and start reaching out to them. Say, hey, these are tough times. You've been a great customer of mine in the past. Looks like I came 6 months ago or 12 months ago or however long it was. And just say, hey, you know what? Right now we're selling some gift cards. And I'd love to follow up and actually go do the service as soon as we're operationally able to, right? By the state and those kinds of things. And literally call down your list. And what is nice by doing this is you can start creating a whole bunch of unscheduled jobs inside of your Housecall Pro account. Those will live on the sidebar of your calendar there. Mm-hmm. And as soon as things start to pick up, now all of a sudden, you've got your list of people. Oh, when can I come? When can I come? And that's the easiest way to start getting the truck rolling. Now, keep in consideration the money that you got for the gift cards, you might not have spent, right, on keeping yourself afloat. But this gets the truck rolling, and this gets people talking about, oh, yeah, Tom and his guys were out. Oh, yeah, let me call him too. Boom. And that starts the flywheel spinning again. So it's a really, I feel like a lot of people forget. Sometimes just calling your existing customer list is the easiest thing to do. You might feel a little uncomfortable, but remember, good things come when you feel a little uncomfortable. So
yeah, sure.
That's the best place to start is your current client base. I recommend don't start spending too much on marketing, because everyone's going to be turning up their marketing dials, and those marketing activities on AdWords and Facebook are going to be considerably more expensive because everyone's trying to bid for a low amount of volume of jobs. So just be very careful and just now all of a sudden go dump $1,000 into Facebook. I would not recommend doing that. Test your way up slowly. Test that demand.
And I'd say from a homeowner and a new working from home homeowner perspective, my house is never going to be more used than it is over these next several weeks and months. So my kids are 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. They are all called off school. I've got pets and a retired husband who works from home. That honey-do list is going to get really long. So there's going to be some pent-up demand for services, hopefully for those of us who are in a position to be able to continue to spend on our homes and in a way that will help keep this economy moving. I mean, we're all in this together, and I know I'm keeping my to-do list. And I might not want someone in the house today just because of some uncertainty, but it's not like I'm never going to do more work in my house. It's not like I'm
Oh,
Mel.
she froze.
Uh-oh. Well, Mel, well, she's really frozen. Okay. Well,
Well,
while
at least it
Mel,
wasn't a bad face.
yeah, at least she wasn't like half blinking.
Right.
So as Mel gets unfrozen, Tom, I think you had one more question, then we'll get into some of our audience questions. Thank you for everyone who has upvoted them. I see a bunch of really good questions in here.
So you want to go with the third question?
Let's go
Okay.
with Mel can chime back in.
All right. So actually, this one was I thought more towards Mel, but maybe let me see what the other one I had was. Roland, this might be better for you. So
Sure.
This is the fourth question I had. It said, if we are deemed non-essential, what are the best ways to fund our business? We've all heard about the SBA loans, but this may not be the best option for everyone.
Yeah. So obviously, if you feel like you're not non-essential business, I would say get away with it for as long as you can, so you can keep some of that cash flow going until someone really tells you to stop. And then in that case, you've got your warning, now to stop. So remember, we've got a government that is somewhat not operating optimally right now. So take advantage of it yourself as much as you can, and don't wait for that handout to come, because if you're doing that, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So maybe it comes and maybe it doesn't, but don't plan on it. SBA loans is something we talked about the other day. Obviously, that only works if you've got business coming in and they look at your ability to repay that loan. So given the current state of your business, you might not even be able to show that. So I always recommend getting that process started earlier rather than later. Don't wait until you have absolutely zero jobs, because it's going to make getting that loan much more difficult. Another thing is, I'm sure you all have friends and family in other businesses that aren't as affected as yours are. So consider asking them for an investment opportunity and just do it cash on the side. Right. I don't know if, I'm supposed to be saying all this stuff, but tell them like, hey, look, we need some more money. Here's my projected cash flow. Here's my overhead every month. I need to cover this for the next 3 months. If you do this in 3 months, because we know this is all going to end and we're going to come back out of it, give them a return on their money that makes it worthwhile for them. And if we call it FFF, friends, family, and fools, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the earliest round for any backed startup. Go out and ask and say, hey, here's some financials if you'd like to. And by the way, no pressure. If you say no, that's not a big deal at all, right? But it never hurts to ask, because you don't get if you don't ask. So this is the easiest way to do it without going through a whole bunch of hoops. So that's an idea. Obviously, the gift cards is a great idea, because you can also discount your services in the future. So people love buying $100 gift card for $80.
Right.
Because they're going to use it at some point in the year. So what you're doing is you're discounting your future services to keep cash coming in. So don't think you just have to sell gift cards on par for 100 for 100. Do some discounting. I know many of the pros back in the day when Groupon was in its heyday would gladly offer 50 for 100 or those things. Because remember, even if you're discounting those gift cards, you can always raise your prices coming out of the back end, right? And now all of a sudden, when they apply the gift cards, you're making on par anyways. So keep that in mind as another easy way to kind of do some funding there. My last idea here is, if you're using Housecall Pro and you've got service agreements, set up a plan, call it like support local business plan, or whatever it happens to be. It could be $20 a month. and go sell that to your existing client base and say, hey, for 20 bucks a month, you're going to start accruing this, and this is going to accrue. And then when it comes time to do the service, I'm going to take whatever you paid into it, credit it to your next job as soon as we get out of this. But that helps you get that recurring monthly income. So it's not just a one-time cash infusion, but it might cover you for a couple months. So that's a really great way to build some sort of reliability from a system of your past customers, because they already know what your service is. They already know you did a good job. Maybe they even left you a review. So when you're thinking about who are those customers that hit up first, just go to your Google listing and go look at all the names and go call all the people that left you a review. Because if they're willing to leave you a review, most likely they're willing to rebook at some point in the future. So hit those ones up first and then go through all the rest of your customer list.
That's a great idea. Hey, real quick, you said something about keep going until they tell you not to go anymore. During Sandy, that was a big deal for us because initially everything was locked down, and then they made it so that you had to get permits to go to any municipality in town. Like I would literally have 7 of my vehicles on the road, and every guy would have to have a certificate to say that they could go into that town. And we had to play all sorts of games. But yeah, that's a great point. Go until they tell you not to go. That's a fact. Yep.
And because then you'll know what you need to do. Otherwise, right. Who knows? Maybe you're not watching the news. Maybe you're not reading the internet. It's still their duty to tell you, and then it's your duty to go do whatever they tell you or stop. So just keep going. You guys are all small businesses, and that's the only way, in my opinion, to roll in times like these.
Agreed.
Yep. Thank you so much, Tom, for getting on here. I feel like we've got, 5:40. Is there any tips that you would like to leave any of our 230 people right now that are watching that have either worked for you, or things that you're going to try, or things from your past experience that you feel like someone else would gain some wisdom from?
I will say this, especially after going through Sandy, definitely don't panic. Just stay cool. We've had people, we're booked through next Thursday, believe it or not. And I know a lot of people are getting cancellations. Well, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that have the fear factor. So, but there's other people that are just going to be like, hey, my carpet's dirty, or my HVAC has to be serviced. You're still going to get calls. It's going to be less. And the other thing that I always focused on, especially during Sandy, was this is temporary. It's going to end eventually. So just, keep it going and don't give up.
Yep. No, that's a great tip. And by the way, guys, one simple hack that you can do on your service calls for people that are asking to reschedule or cancel, what you should do is you should turn into pause of brand moment. Say, hey, Alexa, I know you said you wanted to reschedule or you wanted to cancel. Is there anything that could bring to your home? 9 times out of 10, no one's going to take your offer up for it. Okay, they're gonna be like, oh no, but thank you so much for asking, Tom. That was so nice. They're always gonna remember those moments. And guess what? Maybe there's that 1 out of 10 that you can genuinely help. Guess who's gonna be booking you later down the road when things are better again? It's gonna be that customer. So if your guys are on the clock and you're paying them, you might as well have them. I guess they're building value for your business down the road. So put that money to work, and if the trucks are on the road, just do that. And it's one simple question: hey, is there anything I could pick up for you from the grocery store if it happens to be there? It's a really simple question to ask, and it'll get you really far. Oh look, Mel's back.
Yay, Mel.
You made it.
No.
Nope.
So yes, Roland, I do actually have some stuff I'd like you to pick up. I need toilet paper. If you could bring that to me.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at all the comments now. Oh boy, I'm gonna be doing a lot of flying.
Honestly, it's a really creative idea. Toilet paper, hand sanitizer. I before we get into, I know Tom, you had a question that you wanted to ask Mel, and then I'd like to get at least like 2 of our audience questions answered. But there's a really good idea from Jen. How about an essential service identification sign on vehicles for providers to avoid pullovers? I thought that was creative. I don't know if it's Google, but do you guys hear that?
Yeah, I think Mel's got a little bit of feedback.
Mel,
I'm here. I'm back.
Okay. I thought that was creative from Jim. Essential service identification sign. I don't know if that's a thing or if that's something that you have to make, but if it does come to that, I don't think it could hurt.
I would totally print something out and put it on my truck, like a vinyl sticker, or even just like a paper and tape over it. You could totally do that and get away with it and see what happens. It never hurts to try.
That's what we always say.
Yeah.
Tom, do you want to ask your last question for Mel before she got pulled off?
Yeah, Mel, it's a short one, but I think it's something to be answered. When we're considered a non-essential essential company, how does that affect the employees' unemployment benefits? Meaning, it's not reduced hours. So is it? What's the lingo that you would use to handle that?
Sure. So I think most of your businesses are going to be deemed as essential from lots of what I'm seeing. Either way, if your employees are there's no work available for them for whatever reason, then they would apply for unemployment insurance within your state. So it's the key to unemployment, receiving unemployment benefits, is that it's through no fault of your own, right? So you can't just not show up for work and call in sick every day when you're on spring break and then collect unemployment for it. But if there aren't hours available, there's not work available because you're an essential business but there's just not enough work, or you're a non-essential business and you're shutting down, or maybe you're an essential business but you just can't keep everybody on board, those employees should qualify for unemployment benefits.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we've never had this many questions before. I see 36 open questions. And thankfully, you guys voted some of these with some thumbs up. So, Alexa, do you want to run us through the first? I think we got time for like 2 questions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to save these questions here, put them in a Google Doc, and then we're going to try our best to answer them as well. So that way, all of your guys' questions will get answered. There's 37 of them. We'll go through it and clean it up. But let's start with the first 2.
Mm-hmm. So the first one was upvoted 9 times. The first part of the question, I'm not sure if we can answer. Mel, this would probably be more of a you question. We cannot stop working due to cash flow. Are we penalized if we are on shelter and still doing service work? Do you know anything about that?
So each of the orders that come out show often what the penalties are. So if you're an essential business and you're doing essential services, you're fine. If you are non-essential and you're out there working, you could be fined in most areas.
In New Jersey, they said it's a disorderly conduct ticket. That's what the penalty is. So you can weigh your options and see what the fee is for the ticket and just keep working.
Yep. I like that advice a lot.
Okay. This one's more of a statement, but Mel, you can also touch on it too. We offered for our employees the option not to go to work, but they chose to work because they need money. Can you tell us about like pros and cons of being in a situation like that?
Yeah, as an employer, we're responsible for providing a safe work environment. So as long as you're providing a safe work environment and your employees are choosing to show up, that's great. And I love that, giving flexibility to say, hey, look, we're doing everything we can. We have provided a safe work environment. We feel really good about the precautions we're taking. But all that being said, there's a lot going on. Maybe you've got kids like I do who are home from school, and not coming in is something that might, you might be looking for, and then giving folks the option. I think that that's a really great thing to do. But as long as you're providing a safe place to work, and if people want to keep coming, that's what's going to keep the economy moving.
Mm-hmm. There's a good comment here from Daryl. I am torn between society needs and my income. I think that is just so true in this group with the nature of your work. I thought that was a really good comment. And then we talked about this yesterday, but it's a really important topic, which is the SBA loans. So there's a lot of talk about the Corona relief for people who are laid off from work. Are we required to continue to pay our employees, or should we refer them to unemployment? I assume our unemployment insurance rates will increase. Any relief for us small businesses? That's from Scott Foley.
Well, the relief that they're mentioning is family and sick leave. So unless someone is sick or caring for a family member, that's not what that leave is. Unemployment is also, the states are receiving additional unemployment funding within that same provision. So if there's no work, then employees should be filing for unemployment. You're not going to be paying them unemployment directly. They'll be getting that from the state.
Awesome. Let's see here. I'm going through our questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of statements in here too.
Since we have I've noticed a lot of home cleaners asking about this because it's really just depending on your county if home cleaning is essential or not. Let's talk about sales. So this is from Kelvin Pinero. What's the best way to go about sales during this time for house cleaning services? Let's say they're not in essential services only mandate right now.
I mean, one could argue that what they're doing is essential, right? Because if your home gets super dirty, that could actually cause more health risks. So you could always make that argument, and I would say go ahead and do that for now, unless explicitly told not to. That being said, is if you wanted to really play it squeaky clean, I would recommend, contacting other businesses that now actually, because they don't have people there, can actually go have you come clean during the day. Obviously, as many of you know, in the cleaning space, a lot of these commercial contracts require you to come during night shifts or during nighttime because there are no people there to actually do the cleanings. So now there might actually be some opportunities in the B2B space, right? Or go, business to commercial, to go reach out to some. Oftentimes, I think Mel even said it yesterday too, local churches, things like that. There's also an opportunity as well to get some interesting write-offs. When you provide services at a going rate, and you do not get comped for them, there's ability, and depending on where you are, local tax laws, obviously I'm a CPA, but you can write off those services so you can offset some of that income that you had. So that way during tax time, you get less of a bill that you have to pay Uncle Sam. So that way you're still keeping busy and getting some of those tax benefits down the road. So obviously consult with your CPA on this one, but you can definitely do this. The same goes for if you're providing services as a marketing expense, you can also quantify those as a tax write-off. So there's opportunity to do free work, but still claim it as something as a deduction to your business. So there's a couple really cool tax strategies that you can do. So that way you're still actively doing work, but benefiting your business, even if you're not getting straight dollars in. It just helps you from paying dollars out.
Okay. So one last question, it's going to be for both Roland and Mel, and I think this is really topical for everyone in this group because springtime is normally when you all start getting busy going into summer, so you're hiring people, and that's really what this time of year typically is focused on, and it just is not right now. So Dan Fair said, we just hired 3 new employees that are starting Monday in our electrical business. At this present time, our schedule is full, but just wondering if we should have waited to hire or just keep going for as long as we can. Also, do we need to purchase another vehicle? Do it now or wait?
Well, I'll speak it just first to the hiring. I mean, you can't go back and undo it, right? And think about how long it takes to find a really good person and how much energy and effort you put into that effort. So if there is any ability to keep someone on, and maybe you've hired them as full-time, but you can convert them to part-time if things get slower. If you do that, if they were working before they came on board with you and have a history of working, then they very likely could qualify for partial unemployment benefits. Most states offer unemployment benefits to those who have a full-time job and then are reduced to part-time or have their schedules cut due to no fault of their own. So there could be the potential there for you to keep them on the payroll with whatever hours you can give, but allow them to still apply for and collect some unemployment assistance. Roland, I'll let you take the other half.
Yeah, and just on the business end of things, obviously, like as this drags on, people are going to be hurting for business more. And as you can imagine, when it comes time to negotiate for that new vehicle, and potentially if the dealerships are even open or allowed to, there's obviously ability to negotiate kind of online with them. But depending on where your projections are and if you really need the vehicle or not, I suggest wait a little bit longer to see where this heads before you make a commitment to add to your overhead. What you don't want to do is overextend yourself in a time when there's this uncertainty and volatility, because it might come back to bite you in the butt later. So make sure before you do this, you clearly understand and you're very secure in what you think is going to happen. Otherwise, it's not going to hurt you to wait off a little bit longer, so you can use that as leverage to your advantage. Obviously, as a small business, you want as much power in your corner when it comes to these kind of negotiations for something that you're going to be paying for a while. Oftentimes too, you can figure out, hey, is there any opportunity to do, ask for no interest ask for upgrades, ask for all kinds of stuff, because now's the time that people can give more. And also, who knows what the government's going to do? Maybe they'll even give that as write-offs to that business for helping an essential business. You never know what's going to happen. So just let it play out a little bit. Don't make any irrational or very fast business decisions that you're going to have to pay for later that might have you cause decisions that you didn't intend. So be careful, be thoughtful, and think about what you can get and never be afraid to ask.
Hey, Roland, just a quick comment with experience from Sandy is, I agree with you 100%, but don't assume anything's coming.
Yep.
Because you could wind up getting yourself hurt.
Assume nothing.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Ask for everything, assume nothing.
Yes. Actually, GMC, talking about that, GMC just offered 84 months for 0% interest on vehicles. So who knows?
There you go. They know they got to start shipping those vehicles, and they're just going to sit there and depreciate on the lot. So,
right.
Yep. There's some great deals to be had for sure. And it's only going to get better, guaranteed.
All right, so I know this was a longer evening update, but there was so much to cover in here. So if you were joining late, this video will be available. We're going to upload it to the Facebook group. I'm sorry that it couldn't pass live today. Facebook was having a problem with all groups. It wasn't just us this time. And any questions that didn't get answered in this Q&A, we have an ongoing doc that Mel and Roland have both been working to fill out. So once we have the majority of them on there, we're going to upload it into the Facebook group. So thank you, Tom, for joining us today. You offered so much insight, and your questions are, I think, really great for everyone in the group. Other than that, make sure you're in the coronavirus discussion for home services Facebook group. I'll post the link in the chat box here. And if we don't see you there, we'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. That's going to be our last evening update for the week. So make sure to join us then. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
All right. Take care, guys.